picked up this little dream machine. So Minn Kota iPilot 601603, it's the PowerDrive unit with Bluetooth capability. So this is going to be a multi-part video where I'm actually going to fit this to the boat. Welcome to part 3 of this Minn Kota installation video, being installed on an FC535 center console. Today's video is all around the electrical setup for this particular motor. This was going to be run as a totally independent system, so we'll not be charging the battery from the motor, we'll be charging it as we return each time. So we are installing a 120 amp hour deep cycle battery. Couple of things to consider. This battery here is 32 kilos in weight, so I need to consider where we're going to install that, take you through the process of making that decision and the actual physical wiring of it and how we're looking at doing that. So one option that we've got available is to install the battery up in this front locker of the FC boat. I have a cover made for mine. So there's a fair bit of storage space within these two areas here. So just dry fitting the battery box, we'll see how we go. So clearly it doesn't fit in the bottom locker, and yet it would fit quite nicely up into the central locker in here, and with the lid on it as well. Things to consider here is that there's 32 kilos on that particular shelf. Don't think that would be an issue. I usually carry 25 litres of fuel up in that bow section anyway. It keeps it nice and tucked out of the way. So that's option one. Obviously a very short leads that I have to run to the motor, etc. Option two is a little bit more difficult, and I could install that into the centre console. Within the centre console itself we have the existing battery for the boat, so that starts the motor and runs the electronics. There's clearly no room in that particular space to accommodate it. So the other option is to install it inside this front hatch here. So there's plenty of space within here. I quite like this idea, and the reason for that is that at the low centre of gravity the battery is going to be on the bottom, it's not going to bounce around too much, and the beauty is, very hard to see here, but you'll see it when I wire it, is there's actually a port to run the wires through and bring them up, so it's tucked up out of the way there. So I think we'll explore this option a little bit more and look at installing the battery into this particular area. So just from a size comparison, so there's plenty of space to install the battery box in that particular area, centrally located. Probably one thing that I do need to consider is how I would secure that in there, whether I just sit it in there to free float. So we're actually using tinned marine cable, so this is 8mm squared cable, and I couldn't get a twin, so I'm actually having to make a cable loom of that, so I'm just taping the two wires together to make an actual cable loom, but this is rated for 100 amps. The reason I've gone for 8mm is just to allow for the voltage drop because of where I'm placing the battery. So to make a nice tidy installation, what I thought would install is the Minn Kota trolling motor plug and receptacle. So it comes in basically two parts. You've got the plug here and the bit that the plug plugs into. Pretty obvious stuff. So I'm actually going to mount that just above my rod holder here on the boat, in this position here, in between where the two rods sit. It's nice and out of the way, and then the lead will be able to just come in and plug in here quite nicely. And it's a nice, also where the wires come out of the back of that, there's a little rim in the back there that protects those connections. So we'll go through that installation process of that. We've laid some protective tape in here where I'm going to drill, so it's going to be in the centre of these two particular rod holders. There's a welded seam here that has a little lip at the back end of it, so we want to be just in the middle of that, about there somewhere. Remove the tape. This is going to look really smart in there, so. But we'll go through and wire this up. Okay, the numbers are going to be 1 and 3, and 3 is going to be the negative. And we'll actually write that down so that we actually got a record of that. So 3 the negative, 1 the positive. Okay, we'll install the cable clamping mechanism onto this. That's pretty simple by the look of it. Just make sure we get those 2 cables in there. So we'll start one side and then do the other. So that's nice and neat and tidy. We'll slide our rubber insert back down. So that's what it's going to look like. So it's nice and tidy and out of the way. In actual fact, we might just fold those down there like that. So we've threaded the wire through the tube that's under the floor in the FC535. We've brought it out to where we need to make it off. Now obviously pretty important things first to stick on is the lock nut that sits behind this. Been there, done that before, so lesson learnt, so let's do that. I'm actually sticking a slightly thicker washer on here as well, so just to make it bind in there a little bit better. I'll put those on, feed them back through the hole, and wrote down previously, number 3 is the negative, so that goes to number 3 on this plug, and number 1 is the positive, so the red will go to number 1 on the plug here. So we'll make those off, and then we'll be able to button that up, and that's this side complete. So 3 is negative, just check 3, it's going to go like this, and 1 was a positive. To pair the iPilot remote with the iPilot motor, turn the remote on, acknowledge the safety message, press the up key to go to system, press the soft key for system, and find pair, enter the tick, scanning for motors. Okay, so we've got the 3 beeps and now we are paired. Okay, we will now sync the iPilot to the iPilot app on my iPhone. So we click on the iPilot, it says to go to Bluetooth and turn on Bluetooth settings.